good?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Fine.
Go ahead, Sergeant.
Sure. Do you guys need me to spell or say anything?
Yes, please.
Sergeant Melissa Solis. That's S-O-L-I-Z. Sergeant with the Phoenix Police Department Public Affairs Bureau.
So what happened out here today, Sergeant?
So as many of you know, we've been out here all morning with the Phoenix Fire Department. So we can now say that Phoenix, our detectives are over there, and they're going to be investigating this as a homicide. This scene is a complete tragedy behind us. Not only is this devastating to the first responders that had to respond and witness what's inside, but this neighborhood is very close-knit, community members, and of course the extended loved ones and family members that are related to this home and this residence. What we can say is, so earlier this morning, Phoenix Fire and Police received a call just after 8 a.m. about a hazmat situation and an unresponsive person being inside. So both of our teams arrived, fire and police. Fire worked very hard. It took a very long time for them to help make this resident safe. What we do know is that there was a presence of gas inside the home. That again is why it took crews a very long time to ensure that it was safe inside the home, safe enough for us to be able to go inside and start the investigation. So as of right now, our detectives, our homicide unit, just got on scene not too long ago and have finally done a precursory walkthrough of the home. So this is the very early stages of this house, or this investigation. What we can say is that this is a family inside this home. There is 2 adults and 3 children that are deceased inside this home with obvious signs of trauma. This scene will most likely be processed by detectives for the majority of the day into the night. We first thank you for your patience. Information it's gonna come when it becomes available. We'll do our best to give you guys the information. This is something that is not going to come fast. It's going to take additional patience with this one. We do not believe that there is a suspect on the loose right now, but detectives are going to take their time and ensure that this investigation is thoroughly investigated and looked at.
Sergeant, a lot of questions. My first is this. You mentioned no suspect on the loose. You mentioned 5 people, an entire family dead inside that home. Are you investigating this as a murder-suicide?
That's something that we still need to look at. Our investigators have only done a walkthrough. From there, it's not something that we're comfortable with saying at this point, just because we need to still look at every possible angle, all the evidence, and that's going to take some time.
But no suspect on the loose and obvious signs of trauma, it kind of implies that.
It's something that we're still hoping to have an answer for, and hopefully when we do have that answer, we'll be able to put it out.
Can you talk about the timeline as best you can? Obviously we know there was the gas leak. Do you think that a number of the members of the family were murdered and then the gas leak took place sometime in between when they were murdered and when the last person was shot?
So we don't know what the timeline's going to look like. That's something that they're going to have to look into, when that happened, the trauma. That's something that's going to take a lot of time to distinguish a timeline for when these deaths occurred.
You say signs of trauma. Can you confirm how these individuals passed? Was it by gunshot? Can you go into a little bit more detail of what these signs of trauma was?
Right now at this time, that's not something that we're going to go through. We're still working on next of kin notifications, and just out of respect for the family, the investigation, that's something that detectives are still combing through and working through. And there's, as you can imagine, there's a lot of people. 5 is a lot. So
can we get ages for the children?
That's something, again, we're still waiting to confirm next of kin notifications, and out of respect for the family and just everything that we're trying to deal with right now with this investigation, it was 3 children and 2 adults.
Can we do like an age range?
3 children.
Okay.
Can you talk about the initial, was it call for service or whatever? Was that by someone in the house, or was that from an outside source, or kind of how did that, do you have any idea how that came about?
So we received a call of just an unknown trouble, possible hazmat situation with an unresponsive person inside. So from there, that's when we kind of got the large response with fire as well as Phoenix PD.
Does the propane tank in the front yard have anything to do with this whole situation?
So those are certainly something that we are looking into to determine what was inside.
When you mentioned obvious signs of trauma, does that have any relation to the gas leak, or were there weapons used?
That's something we're looking into on what was the cause and manner of the death of these people.
Did all victims have signs of trauma?
Yes, all 5. Correct.
Sergeant, you mentioned the question was asked about the propane tank, but can you tell us where the gas leak? Surely they know where that originated from at this point, given that it's been dealt with. Where did the gas leak originate from?
So that's something that we aren't able to say right now, just because we've only done a walkthrough. So our whole investigators haven't even walked in that home. It was a very preliminary walkthrough just to get enough information to be able to even have this press conference.
But they did shut off the gas to the home at some point. It wasn't a natural gas leak. Do you believe it was intentionally set, whether it was gas or propane, what have you? Was the leak intentional?
That's something that we definitely want answers to, and that they're going to look into. And as a precaution, Southwest Gas did turn off the gas just because it was something that they just thought it would be a good idea, just to make sure everything is taken care of.
But Southwest Gas has released a statement that said there were no leaks found.
Okay.
So was it propane? I guess we're just trying to find out, how that factors into this story.
For sure. And those answers to those questions are something that we are hoping to have answered as well while investigators are here looking at it.
You mentioned this is a tragedy. It was devastating to first responders. Can you just talk a little bit about the emotional toll when it comes to responding to scenes like this?
Sure. I mean, any scene where there's a loss of life, it's a devastation for someone, whether it's family members, the neighborhood. It sounds like, after talking to people, that this was a close-knit neighborhood. There's family members. They all have loved ones and family members that they're tied to. Our first responders, there was a lot of fire crews out here that were working just to make this safe for us. And then, of course, our investigators that have to walk in there, our crime scene techs that have to process, collect evidence. It takes a team to be able to just investigate this to get some answers.
To know that children were involved.
Of course.
Sergeant, earlier you mentioned that there were officers that were yet to go inside. Is that still the case? Do we have bodies inside the home?
So yes, we do have the 5 deceased are inside the home. As of right now, our investigators are inside the home investigating. So they will be looking at everything, and they'll be out here for the majority of the day.
So you got your search warrant. Do you know why there were firefighters on the roof earlier?
Yes, so that was just part of their process in making sure that the house was safe enough for us to enter and start our investigation. Again, there was a presence of gas, so just as a way to ventilate and air out the house so that we can go in there and properly start to investigate.
Sergeant, I got to push you a little bit on this, because you say no suspects are on the loose, and yet there's 5 people inside there with obvious signs of trauma. Is it safe to report that one person killed the other 4 and then turned the gun on themselves? If there's no one on the loose, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, the public's going to ask, where's the disconnect there? Can you just say you're investigating it as a murder-suicide?
Right now, we have barely got on scene. It's not something that we don't believe that there's someone on the loose, but this is very preliminary information. Our case agent, our investigators, our crime scene techs haven't even went in there to even begin this process. So as soon as I got briefed, I came out here, and this is where this conversation is.
What are you telling all the family and friends that are walking up there about what happened? I'm sure relatives, and we've been told some of them live incredibly close. They're rushing here. We've seen the hugs. What are you telling them about what happened inside?
I haven't seen any relatives or anybody where I was standing, so I don't know what those conversations were like, but I can imagine they were tough conversations.
So, Sergeant, it was a 911 call that came in sometime before 8 o'clock this morning?
Correct. It came in actually just a little after 8 a.m.
Is there anything else that you just want people to know at this point in the investigation?
We are doing our absolute best to get out accurate information, and when we can get out factual information, we will definitely put it out, and I will send out a media advisory as soon as possible.
Do we expect to have another update today, or is this the update we can expect for today?
If there is some important information that they are able to uncover while investigating, while they're inside the home, we just don't know what they're going to find inside the home. So if there is always that possibility, and I'll definitely try my best to keep you guys notified. So
Thank you.
thank you
Thank you so
guys.
Thanks, Sergeant.